Hi, I'm Jen with Career Street, and today we are talking to Darren Hart. Darren is a firefighter for the city of Erie, and he's going to talk to us about his career. Darren, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, Darren, how long have you been a firefighter?
I've been with the fire department for 24 years. I started as a firefighter, became a lieutenant, was a lieutenant for 16 years, and now I'm currently a fire inspector with the Erie Fire Department.
Okay, all right. So, normally I ask people the size of the company that they work.
Mhm.
To answer that question, or how would you describe that?
We have just under 140 personnel on the Erie Fire Department, most of which are firefighters. We have a chief, an assistant chief, fire inspectors, and training personnel as well. But most of the people on the fire department are just line firefighters.
Is there any administrative support, or do different people on the department have the administrative roles?
We do have an executive secretary, and she pretty much runs the department. To be honest, she's really great. She keeps everything moving very smoothly. And then the rest pretty much falls on the what we call the command staff, the chief, the assistant chief, the inspectors. We do a lot of the clerical or the paperwork end of the department.
So you're a fire inspector,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
And before that, you were a firefighter. There's two different jobs there. Is that it,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I was a firefighter, then I became a lieutenant, and then I became a fire inspector after that.
Could you tell me what the different roles are with firefighter, lieutenant, inspector? Could you explain to me what those different roles are?
Absolutely. When you start on a job, you are basically lowest in seniority, and your job is either working on an engine company or a ladder company. As a firefighter, engine company's job is more or less to go put water in the fire and put the fire out. We also respond to car accidents, medical emergencies. So our job is to take care of that. And while we're doing that, and then someone that's assigned to a ladder truck, it's a little bit different job. Your job is more search and rescue. Your job is ventilating the smoke out of the building after the fire is out, putting up ladders. We have large fans that we put in the doors to blow all the smoke out. So it's a different job. So that's the firefighting jobs. The next, usually the logical progression would be become a driver. So then your job, of course, is to get from point A to point B. When there's an emergency, the driver's in charge of getting water from the rig into the hoses so the guys can extinguish a fire. After the driver position, you take the officer's test, you become a lieutenant. You can be lieutenant for 8 years, and then you can become a captain. And basically, you're in charge of 4 other firefighters who are assigned to your truck, and you make all the decisions on how daily events happen, how you handle emergencies, how you handle things in the firehouses, and things along those lines. The next step would be a deputy chief. The deputy chief runs a shift. We have 4 what we call platoons, which are basically shifts. That deputy chief runs those shifts, takes care of all the personnel issues. When we have a fire, that deputy is in charge of assigning personnel to do their jobs, who's going to supply water to who's going to be putting the fire out, things of that nature. And then, if you want to continue up, you can become an assistant chief, and eventually you could, be a chief. Those jobs are appointed from the mayor, and my job is appointed as well as a fire inspector. Fire inspector, we have 2 fire inspectors. What we do is we do fire prevention. That is going into schools, that is going into nursing homes. We're doing fire safety talks. The fire inspection end of it is when we go into buildings and we check for fire safety. We make sure their sprinkler system's working, make sure their alarms are working, make sure their fire extinguishers are up to date, all kinds of things of that nature. And then we also investigate fires. And that is the really enjoyable part of the job is we go to a fire after it's out, and we kind of put the puzzle back together, and we try and figure out how the fire started, and we make rulings on that. And sometimes we work with the Erie Police Department if the fire is considered incendiary, which would be that somebody started it. We work with the Erie Police Department, and sometimes we're able to catch people who started fires.
Okay. I had no idea the various levels. And so that makes a lot of sense. Now, when you were talking about shifts, there is someone at the fire station all the time. You sleep there, you eat there, is that right?
We do. That is
So
true. We work a 1 day on 24-hour shift, and then we're off for 3 days.
Okay. Okay. And so you're there and you have to be there for 24 hours. And if there's a fire at
Yes,
any time during those 24 hours, it's your job to go to the
yes,
scene and take care of that.
absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
So,
It is,
um,
yes.
what types of things do you do when you're not fighting a fire?
We do a lot of training in the firehouse. There's always house cleaning to do, but we train usually every shift on various topics and various techniques. And then, like I said, we just take the calls as they come. Some days you're getting crushed. You're running from call to call to call. Some shifts you could have 2 or 3 fires. Fires are very physically demanding, and they require a lot of effort. And it's just the way it goes. Sometimes your shift, you just get you take a beating. And you do have downtime. We eat breakfast together, we eat dinner together, and we joke around and we mess with each other quite a bit as well when we're in the firehouses. So it's and that's all part of it. It is a family. It really is. You become a family with the people in the firehouse.
Well, I would imagine if you're eating and sleeping and living with them, that you would develop that camaraderie and
Yes,
that family type relationship.
absolutely.
So you bet. So, could you tell me a little bit more about the challenges that you face as a firefighter or as a fire inspector now?
Well, yeah, I mean, the challenges as a firefighter are just making sure you do your job properly, making sure you make the correct decisions at the crucial times to help save someone's life or their property or the lives of their pets. That's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made very quickly on this job. So that is something that's a big part of this, is being able to think on your feet, being able to fall back on your training. That's why we train so much. Muscle memory. If you do something enough, it's just going to come naturally to you. So that's why we train so much. We do a lot of rope training. We do a lot of emergency medical training, just so when we encounter these things, we know how to react, and we're not at a loss for how to handle the situation. From a fire inspector, it's a little bit different. I have a little bit more time to make these decisions. My job is a lot more analytical. As far as inspections go, when I go into buildings, I have a list of things I'm looking for. I just follow that list. I just check off things on that list to make sure their exit signs are lit. Just the simple things that a lot of people take for granted, but like emergency lighting. If you were in a high-rise building and the power went out and there were no emergency lights in the stairway, you wouldn't be able to find your way down. That's something I check in all the buildings I go in, make sure all their emergency lighting's working, make sure their exit signs are lit. I want to make sure that all their fire suppression systems are up to date. If it's a kitchen and they have the hoods over the high heat ovens or deep fryers, there's a fire suppression system in there. My job is to go in and make sure that that's been tested and it's functioning, so that if they do have a fire, it will take care of it. And once again, as far as fire investigation goes, once again, it's an analytical job. I am not rushing to the scene like the people that are putting out the fire. I'm kind of showing up after everything's said and done, and I'm putting the puzzle back together. I'm doing that through interviews. I'm doing that through sifting through the rubble and the debris, trying to find an extension cord, or to find an area where it looks like somebody may have poured an accelerant, or things along those lines. So I've transitioned into chaos to a more slower pace, but it's still a very important job.
So, if I understand this correctly, you go into businesses and
Yeah.
you look for areas that would be most naturally the first potential for a fire to start. And
Yes.
you make sure that what that business has done what is best to protect the company and the people there
Yes.
from a
Hmm.
fire should something start. And
Yes.
then when you're investigating, you're looking for clues through the fire debris to find out, could somebody have used like a gasoline,
Yes.
or if there is some problem that looks like perhaps that's the area where the fire could have started, then you can
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
think it through.
Right. We do origin and cause investigations are what we do. Origin and cause. We try and find where the fire originated and why it originated there.
So we've talked about some challenges. Tell me about the rewards. You said you've been a firefighter for 24 years.
Yes,
So I think that you probably have 24 years of stories and probably
I do.
have had a lot of reasons to love your job. Can you share some of those with us?
Yes, we kind of spoke to it a little bit earlier, but the family aspect of this job is amazing. I work with some of the most incredible people in the world, some of the most kind, compassionate, professional people. They just genuinely care about the people in this community, and they want to do their jobs and they want to help them. A lot of times, on the absolute worst day of their life, you want to be there to help these people. I've had several occasions over the last 24 years where I have shown up to a medical call or to a fire and someone is actually deceased and we've been able to bring them back, and you're walking on air after that. There's no better feeling than walking away from a call knowing that you brought somebody back, you helped somebody to breathe life back into their lungs. There's no better feeling. Being able to make a quick knockdown on a fire and save people's property, people's pets. I will tell you, it's a wonderful feeling when you can walk outside with someone's cat or their dog and hand them off to them, and they thought they were deceased. So there's a lot of really great feelings that come with this. They're obviously counterbalanced by a lot of the awful things that we see on the job as well. But you have those ups and downs, but the ups are amazing and the downs are pretty bad as well.
So tell me, how do you become a fireman? How do you become a firefighter? What is that process?
The process is you take what we call a civil service test, and it's an aptitude test. You usually, I think it's about 120 questions of a written test. When you take that written test, it's put on through the city every 2 years. You take that test, and when you get your score, if you are within a certain range, you move on to the next phase, which would be a physical test, which we call a CPAT test. And that is a 10-station timed physical test designed to see if you can stand up to the rigors of firefighting. You do a stepper with a weighted vest on, you drag a dummy, you drag hose, you put up ladders, you do a lot of things like that to simulate what we do on the department. And once you finish that, and if you can complete it within the amount of time, you get placed on a list. And it's usually the top 40 candidates. So when somebody retires, we go to that list and we pick someone off that the number one candidate, number one on the list, and we fill that position, and we just keep working our way down the list as retirements happen.
I see. I see. So I see you've got the truck behind you. Can you
Yes,
show us some of some parts of the truck and some of your equipment?
absolutely. So I'll do my best here with so this is just kind of the back of the truck. In here we keep our medical equipment for car accidents, for first responders, what we like to call them. Up above is a variety of fire hoses that we use. This is what we call an 1.75" attack hose. That's usually the one we pull the most for a fire. That's gives a really good stream of water. And this is a 300-foot section here, so there's no water in the hose right now. But the driver of the truck will then, when we get on location, we pull all that hose out, we make sure it's nice and straight, and then the driver will put water into that hose for us. That's his job. The hose in the middle up here is what we call a supply line. That is a 4-inch hose, and that's what we hook up to the fire hydrant. So we hook one end of the fire hydrant, we hook the other end into the fire truck, and that's how we supply ourselves with water. This particular truck here carries 750 gallons of water on it at all times, but that goes pretty quick at a house fire. So we always need to supplement our water, and that's why we hook up the fire hydrants. And then this section of hose up here is 2-inch. It's a little bit more volume. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little harder to handle. So you usually need you need 2 guys on that hose just because it's a little bit bigger hose. And then if we move over here, you can see we do carry a couple of ladders on this truck. We carry a 24-foot extension ladder, and we carry a 14-foot what we call a roof ladder. That ladder has 2 hooks on the end, so you put it over the peak of a roof. They fold. When you fold them out, you can hook that over the peak of the roof, and you can stand on it if you had to cut a hole in the roof or something like that. We have the roof ladder. I do have some tools down here on the floor. This, of course, is an iconic tool right here. This is the fire axe. We call a pickhead axe. That axe.
Can you move your camera down just so we can see the head of the axe?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is what we call a pickhead axe, and it's pickhead for the pick on the back. You can chop with it, or you can also poke holes in walls or ceilings with it. It's a very versatile tool, and like I said, it's very iconic with the fire service, the pick head axe. It's my favorite. Next up is what we call a pike pole. And that's just the hook right here. It's this one is a 4-foot pole. One thing about fire, when you have a fire, it can be anywhere. It can be under your feet. It could be in the walls. It can be in the ceiling. So we need ways to get into those areas to find the fire. And that's where the pike pole comes in. You take this hook and you jam it up into the ceiling, and then you pull the ceiling down, and then you check and see if there's any fire up above. The next tool is a really cool one too. This is what we call a Halligan bar, and it's basically a giant pry bar. And we use that for opening doors, opening walls. It's used in tandem with another axe, which we call a flathead axe. It's more of a sledgehammer. And we use this to pry doors open and things like that. And this was actually found by a New York City firefighter. There was a thief that was breaking into buildings, 1800s. And he had fashioned a tool like this. And when he had to escape quickly from a scene, and he left the tool behind, it was found by a firefighter named Halligan, John Halligan. And then he actually brought it back to the firehouse and started using it. And then as things happen, this tool is now a staple in every firehouse in the country. So, and as you can hear in the background, there's a call coming in. So this is a medical call on Wayne Street. So anyway, those are some of the tools we use. And then, so this is a pumper. So it's got, I'll show you where the pump panel is over here on the truck. And this is the part that controls the flow of water. If you look up here, there's an orange tag there. You go up here, there's an orange there. So to get water into that hose, you pull that orange lever out, and that's what gets water into that hose. Move a little bit forward. We have a crew cab here where firefighters can sit in the back. We can fit 3 people in the back. And then we have a driver and an officer, a driver right here. And then the officer sits on the other side of the truck. And he talks on the radio and runs the engine company from that seat.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing us that.
Sure.
So just before we wrap up, I would like to know if you have any advice to give for anyone who is thinking about pursuing a career as a firefighter. How would you tell them to be prepared and to know how to go forward?
Well, a big thing is obviously you have to take a test. And the test is not easy. So you need to study, you need to concentrate on your studies. I took the test just after I got out of college. So I was in a test taking mode, and I was able to do well on the test. So you definitely need to keep your skills up in school to be able to pass this test. Physical fitness is also a very big part of this job. That test, what we call the CPAT test, is no joke. It is a very tough test. You need to be physically strong. You have to have a passion for caring for others. You have to be passionate about wanting to help people. It's a really big part of this job. And you have to also understand that there's a lot of bad associated. You're gonna, going into this, there are gonna be bad days. I've had a lot of bad days, and it's gonna be part of it. It's just something that comes with the territory. So you just have to know ahead of time that yes, it's maybe a glorified job and looked at somewhat as a glamorous position in the community, and you do get to do a lot of good, and you get to help a lot of people, but there is a cost. You see a lot of bad things, and we do have a lot of problems with PTSD on the fire department from people, building up over years and years and years of seeing bad things. Another thing is veterans get 10 extra points on the test. So if you serve in the military, and then when you're done in 4 years, you take the test, you actually have a leg up on the civilians that are taking the test. The fire department is actually a large amount of veterans on the fire department just because of that very fact. 10 extra points really helps. So if you are thinking about going into the service, that would really help you if you wanted to pursue a career in firefighting after that.
One last question. You said that you became a firefighter after you graduated from college.
Yes.
Do you have to have a college degree to take that civil service test?
You do not. Nope. You just have to be 18 years old. I believe you have to live in the city. No, I'm sorry. You don't have to live in the city. Yeah, and it's you just have to be 18 years old. You have to have a driver's license.
Well, thank you so much for your
Okay.
time. Thank you for
Yes.
supporting the Career Street program. It was great to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.